Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. And Mirza took off, I see. Yep. Well, it's all good. What color's the shirt I'm wearing, Sujata?
Well, if I'm not colorblind, I think it's green.
Isn't that interesting? It's blue. It is like the brightest blue on the planet. So is this ball.
But it's showing green.
I know that. I understand that. I'm just telling. I understand it's showing green. I'm just telling you what the color is of this ball is blue. And
all in the perception.
No, but there's something going on with my camera, I think, because this is green.
Yes.
But this is blue. So all my blue is green.
Welcome, Mirza. Mirza's back.
Hi, Mirza.
Welcome.
Hey, beautiful people. How are you? See you going live on Facebook platform, right?
Everywhere, sir.
Omnipresence, you know.
We're working on it.
Well, social media is an amplification of who you are. You can 10x your voice, and there's no better way of having, your voice goes 10x through podcast. So kudos to you, both of you.
It is. It is. Well, it's good to see you, Mirza. How is business?
Well, the whole world throws away the problems. Hey, I don't need this problem. I don't want to deal with this challenge. And forward-thinking, visionary entrepreneurs are, hey, give it to me. We don't ask the life, why me? We tell the life, try me. And world's biggest problems are world's biggest business opportunities. So anything that you can solve, that's the business, And money never sleeps. Money is traveling at the speed of light. And I always say we are one click away from 7.8 billion people. So business is always moving, sir. It's a passion. It's a profession. Once you're logically aligned and emotionally aligned, then physically, spiritually aligned with a vision and mission and purpose that is bigger than you, that is larger than you, then you're already in a flow state. Time dilates. You're out of time and space, and everything is effortless. So that's where we are at the moment. Thankful. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting, when you say that money moves at the speed of light, it's very interesting that they spent billions of dollars to put new fiber optic cable from New York to London to allow them to save a some tiny fraction of a second. But because so many transactions are now flying back and forth on that cable, that tiny little fraction paid for the cable 100 times over. And it's why they did it.
Yep, it's velocity of money. It goes back to what Warren Buffett says. If you don't find sleep, you'll be continuously physically working for the rest of your life till the day you die. So, once you disconnect time with money, there are only 24 hours. With the time is equal to money, money is equal to time is industrial idea. That's where you're an average. But if you disconnect the time and money, then your effort will compound. Then the potential of you making money is unlimited. That's when you are not an average. You are using ultimate leverage.
Yeah. And then the people that make money swapping one currency to another currency multiple times during a day, that always boggles my mind as well.
Yep. Disruptive and exponential technologies are taking the world by storm, It's a DeFi, it's a decentralized currency, That's where the world is heading, So all the ideas of doing businesses are changed, This world used to be very local and lean. Global and exponential. So what is the product? What is the service and online space, offline space that you can offer to the world? Half the world is already part of all online global conversation. So that's why entrepreneurs are building companies that are growing globally and exponentially at the speed of light. At 30th step, you are a billionaire of exponential growth and trajectory.
Yeah. And when you think about it, all you have to do is make a penny a transaction. Make a penny a transaction and get 1 billion actions, and you're doing pretty good in life. Right, Sujata?
Yes.
All right. Well, we have a couple of topics to talk about. So it's I think it'll be fun to chat about them. We've got yours that I don't know where it must have been on the podcast description. Is that where it was?
Yes, it was.
Okay. From like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because we didn't have it last week. And then there's also the one that I happened to throw into, the final recap. I don't know if you saw that when it popped up on social media. Did you see it?
No. What was it?
So, Jeanette, did you happen to take a glance at it?
I was just heading over to get a glance of it. And what it's no, it won't let me back in. It's it says don't be a priority for someone for whom you are only their option. Let's discuss. Is that the topic?
That's one of the topics. The other one is gossip and how to recover. So we've spent the last last Wednesday, Thursday, this past Wednesday, Thursday, talking about gossip and the damage that gossip does all over. And it's been, it's what we talked about yesterday. And we kind of gave people an assignment. Do you remember the assignment, Sujata?
Yes.
What was the assignment?
How we can, see to it that we don't increase the gossip, we decrease the gossip. How do we do that?
What are we going to do to stop the gossip? Stop
Yeah.
it.
Yes. So I wanted to just finish that before we jump into the other topic from a couple of weeks ago, because I think that how to recover, we can use this part of the how to recover with gossip to then use and move us into a conversation about the room description. Don't be a priority for someone for whom you're their option, right? Because one of to me, one of the things that I see in being able to recover from gossip is starting to be authentic with your friendships, starting to be authentic with what you share with people. And as you communicate with people, make sure you're communicating with integrity. Now, what do I mean by that? Some people say, well, you're going to be honest, right? Well, honesty looks different to different people. So what I mean by integrity is making sure that the communication you have works both ways. So when you say something, you might have to say, I just want to check in. What did you hear me just communicate with you? And if you are about to have a conversation with another human about another human being that doesn't happen to be there, one of the things to be responsible for is say, hey, I wanted to have a conversation about Fred or Jane, and I know they're not here, and I'm having difficulty resolving an issue that I've had with them, and I'm curious to get your opinion on the matter. And I'm not looking to gather support and make it gossip to another level. I'm looking to actually get some feedback, which can support me in going and talking to Fred or Jane and getting the conversation complete, so that it now doesn't become gossip. It becomes a mission of a conversational structure that you're interested in getting complete. No longer it being gossip, no longer it being something disempowering. It is constantly a world of empowerment. So for me, when I look at that space and look at how to recover from gossip, that's the way to do it, is really put everything on the table and communicate openly and honestly. Does that communicate?
It communicates.
Yes, Sujata, you took your mic off. Go for it.
So it's very interesting because this morning I was in my observation mood, and I was in several rooms today, and it was all this going on. It was the very fact that we are discussing, those things were going on. So in one room, people were being discussed. In another room, the same people who were being discussed in the first room, one of the names was there in another room. And what people were doing is going from one room to the other and telling them, oh, you're being discussed in that other room. And so there was a very lively debate in all those two, three rooms where there were about 500 people. And the people who were holding the rooms, they were, not liking it when some people said this very thing that, should we be talking about people who are not in the room? Even if they're bad, or if they are, being blacklisted or whatever, but people can have different experiences with those people, right? So it was very interesting, and that was what was the drama going on back and forth, where people were in this room going to the other room, then taking whatever they heard in the other room for a little while and coming back to the room and saying, oh, this is happening. So can you imagine what was happening?
Oh, it's bigger than that, Sujata. They go from room to room, but not only that. I was doing a search earlier for a song,
Hmm.
and pops up all these headlines of clubhouse drama. And I'm like, what is going? I mean, it was a list. It wasn't even like one or two. It was a list. And many of them said clubhouse drama. So first of all, if you're tied into gossip, you're part of the drama. And the conversation Wednesday was, what are you doing to cut off the drama, to make it stop? Well, when there's different behaviors that contribute to the drama. One is you need to have the last say, and two is you just like drama. You contribute, you create it. And so you have to ask yourself, if you're putting yourself around people like that, how long is it going to take till you're the topic of the gossip? And I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, and what was interesting was that when they knew about each other, there was a strategy how to get all those people into the room and increase the numbers. So there were also, somebody was taking track of which room had more numbers, listening to the gossip or listening to the topic, where others being discussed.
Yes, that happens. I've seen it. I've seen something happens in the entertainment industry, and you'll have 3 or 4 rooms in Clubhouse with people in the hundreds, and you're like, what is going on? And you'll have another room where they're talking maybe about a good book, and there's only like 80, and you're like, this is the better room to be in. It's a great book. Let's learn about this book. And they'd rather go and gravitate toward the gospel. Look, if your mother didn't teach you, you are a product of your environment, and that's a lot to be said. If you go into those rooms and spend hours in there, I don't get it. I just don't get it. This is Jeanette. I'm complete.
It's what I would call a very different world.
It's a different world, but it's not a fruitful world. There's nothing fruitful about that type of that type of room. And if there is, this world is in a bad place. I just don't. You want to see good come out of the world. You don't need to be around those type of people or in that type of environment. You want to be in problem solving type of environments. You want to be in environments where there's growth, where there's knowledge and intelligence. You don't want to be in rooms where people are so insecure that they're combative in the rooms. It's not a positive environment. It's not going to improve your own character and integrity that you can carry into building your personal relationships. Those are not things you bring into a relationship. And a lot of the conversations you have in your podcast are areas that you want to be concerned with if you want to have healthy relationships. This is Jeanette, and I'm complete.
Awesome, Jeanette. Thank you. I think that one of the things that we deal with is misinterpretation. And I think the misinterpretation is the killer. And when I was suggesting the way that we look at this is we look at how to recover comes from here's how I'm interpreting this. Is this what you're intending in this conversation? And having that be the part of it. See, to me, that's completing the conversation. See, if we just puke something out of our mouth and then the other person listens to it and decides that they're either in a good mood, a bad mood, or frustrated, or they've got a stone in their shoe and they're not thinking the way that you'd want them to be thinking, all of a sudden they interpret what you just said and they're suddenly in a foul mood. And I can't tell you the number of times that I know that I've done that with my wife, and I know she's down in the speaker lounge. And there are times when it's like, what you just said and how you just said it, here's what I interpreted. And then defense kicks in. And, oftentimes it's not a good place to be, for either of us. And, we both get our, puff up our chests and put our arms up and do the strongman routine and, get frustrated with each other. Now, how do you get out of that? Well, the best thing I think inside of having this conversation about recovery is to look at how what you just said could be misinterpreted and own it and say, look, I have a feeling that what I said was misinterpreted. And I'm sorry. It's not what I meant. And I think that's the place to really be powerful and really create a new opening for action in a relationship, whether it be marriage, whether it be work, business, friendship, neighbor, person sitting next to you. And I think that's the place where we are in so much of a hurry, so many times we stop. We don't stop to smell the situation, i.e., to smell the roses and get, oh, look, this rose smells different than the other. I was just smelling the roses and they all smelled the same. But when you slow down, you go and you smell one and then you go back and smell the other. And it's like, oh, they're two different. My goodness, I've been collapsing both of them into one bucket. And think about that in conversations. That's what we do in conversations. And we're in such a hurry, we don't realize that if we just take it apart a little bit, if we just take a moment and take a breath and we relax and go, you know what? I think I just stepped on your sore toe in this conversation. I think I just repeated a conversation or got you upset from something that was happening to you at work, and I just did the same thing. And now I just got the backlash of 6 hours of your work drama smacked upside my face. Now, what if we could be that powerful with our communication, that responsible with our communication, start to develop that much integrity and workability every day? What would that look like? See, we talk about this conversation of don't be a priority for someone for whom you are their option. Think about how gossip plays into that, how miscommunication plays into that very thing that we're discussing as our second topic for tonight. I hand the mic to you, Sujata.
Very well said. And to what you said, I would add this when you said, how can we, be mindful? So it is simple and yet not simple, because things are simple when we speak about it, but not really simple when we have to do something about it. For example, when you outline the situation of how it can be misinterpreted, you should have uh, a starting point of understanding. So when you say something, you should understand if it's not received the way you think it should be received. So if you can make out that somebody has had a bad day, or to use the phrase, they got out of the bed wrong side, whatever it is, and that's why they are snapping back at you, or they are receiving it in a not so very happy kind of a disposition, then you say, okay, maybe, like you said, it's something that you don't even say that something, you just ask them, did something happen at your workplace, or did something happen to you, are you okay? You're generally not in this kind of a frame of mind, so try to get it out as to what is it that they became irritable at, something which was not to be misinterpreted that way. So that is one way of dealing with it, and to be mindful of it, that when people don't receive it in a cordial manner, then you try to figure out what's the other person's problem, before you add to the misunderstanding by say, oh, I didn't mean to say this, but you have misinterpreted me, my intentions were good and I was trying to help you, or I was trying to be nice, or whatever may be the situation. Because that will only act as a point of defense for the other person, who's going to defend and say, no, but you were talking like this. They won't want to admit it. So if you go on that route, the admission doesn't come. But if you go on the route which I said earlier, where you just ask them without asking the question, you just say, did you have a bad time, did something happen to you, make them feel that they are not really that kind. Now if they're habitually prone to snapping, then it's a different matter. Then no matter what you say or do, you will be misinterpreted. So it depends on context and with whom you're talking. you know that's what I want to share on the first part. As for gossip, or as for priority, it goes, the extension goes here like this. So those who like to gossip, they find some people who are good listeners at times, and they will come to you whenever they want to gossip, right? They will have to offload it somewhere, so they'll take your time. And if you are used to being in the listening mode and you have invested in the relationship, you're always there to listen and to, give them that space, only to realize that you only serve as a tool for as and when they need you. They're not really bothered with what you are doing, who you are, what's happening with you, right? It's only some drama that they want to share. You need an audience, no, for all this. As I just now told you, what was happening in Clubhouse. They all needed the audience, and then they were trying to see which audience was larger than the other.
It's, you know, I'm going to say this, and this may scare a few people out of the room, and I guess it's okay. But it really, this is reminds me of a junior high school locker. My penis is bigger than your penis. And it's like, seriously? And we live like that. I mean, it's like the Joneses living next door. Oh my gosh, they got a new car next door, so we better get a new car. You know, look, their deck is bigger than our deck. We should probably add an addition. And and I hear and look at that stuff and I laugh because it's like, you know what? There's always going to be somebody with something bigger than yours. It's just the way life is. Right, Sujata?
Yeah, but it's not said so nicely the way you're saying that we need to get a bigger deck. The conversation will go between the spouses like this. Look at them, they have this. What are you doing? It's been so many years. You don't even have this. You don't even have that. You've not given me this. You've not given me that, etc., etc. So, somebody else who has no meaning in your life next door is that visible thing, makes you go off into a relationship issue within your bedroom. Ask yourself what is important. They couldn't care less who the neighbors are, and you are bothering about the material positions of the neighbor to address relationship issues. It's not about what you had or not had. You're actually frustrated, you're dissatisfied with life, what you have probably wanted, not got. So you beat up the other person and say, it's been so many years, I've not got this, I've not got that. What have you reached? Where have you reached in your company? You slog 24 hours a day, but you don't get your promotions, etc., etc. That's how it goes.
Yep, amen to that. Well, I see we've got Wade and Scott on the stage here on Clubhouse, and I'd love to hear. Wade, do you want to chime in? Or Letitia, because sometimes Letitia's right next to Wade.
Yes, Tisha is right next to Wade. Wade is sleeping. He fell asleep listening.
I'm so glad our conversation is sleep-worthy. That's hilarious.
he's had a rough day.
He was not feeling well.
Oh, I know. It's more the laugh.
I know. But I like the conversation that's going on. When I heard it, I listened to things about how we speak to one another, and a lot of it's relationship building. We have to build relationships with people, and if we don't build the right sort of relationships, then the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And being able to communicate clearly of our wants and our desires or our needs. Wade and I have, we've been together for, oh my God, I think 15 years, but been married for like 6. We've been through 2 marriage classes, relationship classes, to learn how to speak to each other. And we do it to help support the community. But we also do it to refresh ourselves on how to communicate to each other and go, this is what I hear you saying. And then he'll say, no, that's not what I'm saying. And then we go into okay, explain to me what you're saying. Explain to me what your needs are. And I think that helps, not only in our own relationship, but in relationships with other people that we have. Because if we can't communicate right, nobody's going to understand. Or they're going to think it's something else when it's not. Like today, we've had an incident for the last 3 weeks over something that was on our property that we let somebody put it here, that they were supposed to pay rent on it, and it was a big misunderstanding, and the thing's been here for 3 years, and before we left on vacation, we got a text, hey, can I come mow your grass, and I can take this off your property, and blah, blah, blah. We're like, we're not home, we're on vacation, we'll discuss this when we get back. And we got a text today about it, and because the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, because the right hand went ahead and did things and spent money, that did, I guess it needed to be spent, but really didn't need to be spent, and said, well, if you want it, there's a financial, a bill has to be paid, basically. And he's like, I'm not paying any more for this, and blah, 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 and had to take a step back and explain, the situation. And once everything was explained in person, because things can get misconstrued when you're texting or you're emailing, because you don't see that person face to face. So things get screwed up, things get messed up, and there's no understanding. And with that, I yield my mic to you, Coach Les. I'm complete.
Thank you so much. And with that, I pass the mic over to Scott. Hi, Scott. Uh-oh. His mic, he's stuck and he's coming back. There we go.
Did that work?
It did, sir. You are loud and clear.
Excellent. Okay, I think my dog's walking around. First, interrupt this too much. It's a very interesting topic. I'm glad I was able to join. When I think of this, I actually think of it as from a different perspective. The first perspective I want to identify is and I had this right in my mind too, and I was ready to go. First of all, the only thing coming to my mind is what people think of me is none of my business. Like I'm thinking of it as an internal thing. And when it comes to gossip and spreading bad rumors and stuff like that, I'm trying to think of okay, what and when it comes to things that I may have said or have done, hopefully known with being done with the best intentions. Once they're said and done, after I apologize if an apology is required. What can I control? And what it comes down to is I can control me. I can control the way I look at it, the way I behave around it, and how I feel about it. And I find that most people tend to so much on what other people think that it actually stops them from doing what they really could do in life. A lot of people won't get up and speak, even in a room like Clubhouse, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, it's interesting where society and, well, individuals in general have taken it to say, what if somebody says something about me? What if I say something and people make fun of it? And learn to point that back to myself and say, okay, yeah, what if? Okay with it. So, as a profession, I get up and I talk to people in front of groups right now virtually, and I make a fool of myself every single day. and do it jokingly, and I joke around, and I'll tell you right now, at first, it is awkward. When I start a class, I'll tell you right now, I'll joke around, and I'll be a little bit stupid, and I know that. And it is awkward. But once people start to kind of accept it and understand it and move on with it, and know that, look, I'm putting myself out there, you can do, man, does it ever make for a fun session. Because you know that, okay, he's putting himself out there now. If I do it, they're already judging Scott, so who cares? And it's just interesting how controlling the way we as individuals react to it, behave around it, think about it, worry about it or not, tend to give others permission to then step outside of their comfort zone, make a bit of a fool of themselves and know that it's okay. So that's kind of what came to my mind. And I'll yield the mic back to you, Coach Les.
I think that was a very good share, Scott. And if you use humor as a strategy at times to put people, that's a good thing.
Well, and I actually kind of feel sorry for the people who do go to, like, even if you take different clubhouse rooms, I actually feel sorry for the ones who go to different rooms just to gossip. Like, you have nothing better to do with your life to throw other people under the bus. Like, I'm striving for so many positive things in my world. I don't have time to look negative at anyone. I got too much going on. So I actually kind of feel sorry for them. And actually, to some degree, want to help them if they're open to it. Be like, hey, what if we did things differently? Because it's just going to be the angle I take.
I think doing things differently, very good idea. The question is, the people that are consistently listening to you a certain way, how do you go about retraining them? And I say that not like meaning to demean them, I'm saying that in how do you retrain them, as in have them give you a second chance and listen to you differently. What are some of the techniques that you might be able to use to have them reframe their relationship with you and reframe how they listen to you? That's one of the questions that I put to you. What do you think of that, Sujata?
Yeah, we have to do things differently to get out of the prescribed format, the comfort zone, and the linear kind of thinking. So we should adopt a non-linear kind of thinking. And just because we are told to operate in a certain way doesn't mean that we have to operate in that way, right? We can use our common sense, our rational, and our logic. And when dealing with people, you have to be in context and you have to see who the person is. It's not one yardstick which will apply to everybody. The relationship with your parents is different, the relationship with your siblings is different, but the operating system should be the same. So if we are authentic, we are positive, we are accepting and understanding, because none of us are perfect. So if we understand that somebody might have a bad day or somebody is going through some trouble, so can we put us a little bit on the side and just ask genuinely, how are you, right? Not as a matter of this thing, like people all the time say, how are you? Are you really asking me how are you, or you're just saying it because it's like good morning, good night? Because if I tell you I'm not doing too well, what is the next thing that you are going to do is something you should be prepared to do or answer. Otherwise, don't ask that question. And that is why for most people I have a standard reply. And sometimes people in Clubhouse even who have got to know me laugh about it, but that's how it is. I better answer it that way so that I spare you from getting into any conflict of interest. If you ask me how are you, I'll just say I'm alive. Now if you misinterpret that in a different manner, that's not my lookout.
So this brings up a conversation that Sujata and I had one evening. And I shared with her the context that when you say I'm alive, most people put you into a frame of reference that you're struggling, that life isn't going as well as you'd like it to, and that you're currently alive versus being in the hospital on your deathbed. So when you answer, I'm alive, for me, the smart boy communicator over here, I'm going, really? I thought I was talking to a dead person. Thanks for telling me the blatantly obvious. So when you say I'm alive, it communicates that you've got your heart is beating and you're breathing. So it really doesn't communicate anything. So to me, I may as well not have asked the question, because the answer you gave me is like saying, well, how are you today? Well, the sky's blue. Okay, well, I guess it's better than the sky being gray or black. So for me, this is one of those areas that Sujata and I differ, because that answering I'm alive is not a complete answer. And it really doesn't even say much other than the blatantly obvious, because I can hear you speaking and breathing, and currently it sounds like you're alive. What are your thoughts on that, Scott?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's amazing how people tend to answer that kind of way. Where I tend to take it to mean is that if I answer differently, I'm going to stand out to others. So if somebody were to come up to me and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And I've said this almost like I sound like a broken record. I usually just default to, "Oh man, I'm living the dream. This is awesome." And people tend to stop and go, "Really?" And I'm like, well, I mean, it's somebody's dream. Because there's always somebody who wishes they were in my spot. As much as I may be having a bad day, there's always somebody who wishes they were in my spot, right? So that's
Right. There's always someone in a worse. There's always someone in a worse condition than us.
Exactly. So, but I find it's interesting too. Again, being contagious, I find that when I answer things like that, people naturally just be like, "Oh, I might steal that," or "Huh, I didn't see that coming." And that's the whole point. It's yes, okay, it might sound annoying to the people who are constantly around me hearing me say that, but it's the fact that even responding in a way like that will make somebody's day. And really, all I've said is how it's interesting the power we have. So there's something else I was going to mention about it too. When it comes to helping others, changing the way that they think, where I have learned over the last couple of years, especially researching more into giving and receiving feedback, is we have to remember somebody's history when it comes to giving or receiving feedback. Because if they've tried to give feedback to somebody and it has fallen on deaf ears, they're going to pretty much be like, well, I'm not doing that again. And for the most part, when people receive feedback themselves, it's usually negative feedback. And it's basically like, okay, go to the principal's office. So in those cases, I would actually start by asking questions. How's it going when you see this? And what would you like to change if you see this? And notice that they're not close-ended, they're open-ended questions. That way they have to give you a response. And the reason I would ask questions is because if they give me the answer, they're more likely to open up their minds to any suggestions I might have, because they can start to see the pain that they've been going through, and then a lot of times created themselves. And basically to be like, okay, well, if I gave you suggestions that could help you, would you be open to that? And then by asking those types of questions, that kind of opens the door. That's in somebody, hopefully doesn't happen all the time, but hopefully will allow somebody to change their mindset and go down a better path. But they have to want to do it. That's the biggest thing.
Amen. Yes, very true. Wade or Letitia, sorry.
That's true. I accidentally left the room and walked back in.
Okay.
It's thundering here, so I am just going to listen because I may lose service.
All right, no worries.
We're having a real bad here.
No worries. And okay. Yep.
Nope. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Take care. And I see Michelle popped in the room. Hi, Wei Young. Hi, Nico. Hi, Hills. Well, Sujata, any final words?
Not really, because I think people have been listening. I would have felt happier if there was more contribution, but it's okay. It takes time to get used to our rooms, which are topics about being being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And so, yes, it's something which probably we have left some food for thought and something to ponder upon, is what I'm hoping, because listening is also a very key part of communication. But I do thank everyone for their time.
And I do want to, excuse me, if there's anybody that wants to pop a question. My mouth is super sore right now. Oh, sorry, Michelle. Thank you. Thanks for being here and just listening. Thanks for communicating that. I just love the room chat because it allows people to communicate without having to come up. I love that. So thank you very much, Michelle. And the challenge I want to give everybody as we wrap up tonight is to really take a look and see for yourself where and when do you sell out on cleaning up conversations around you, because it's easy to walk away. Where do you sell out from the aspect of, I don't want to get involved in this gossip stream, so why should I be a part of the recovery? I don't want to have this conversation about what I would call if I'm not a priority for someone for whom, I don't want to be a priority for someone for whom I'm their option. What's a way that we can, what I would say, level the playing field? How do we build a new way of communicating with our circle, with the people around us, so that we are able to speak the truth without hurting feelings? Speak what our mind is saying and have the other person go, wow, that didn't sound very good. You want to say it another way? Or, wow, you must be really frustrated with what's going on. Is there anything I can do to support you? As opposed to, here, let me take your gossip and move through that gossip. And I know this is not an easy thing to do because we all have our situations with work. We all have our situations with our social circles. For some, it may even be here on Clubhouse. And we don't want to rock the boat for fear of getting blocked or for fear of getting rejected or looking bad. Well, I'd like you to consider that when you leave integrity on the table, you diminish the listening around you. You may not look bad, to a point that it's seeable or understandable right in the moment, but you've opened the door for the rest of the crud to come in. It's like when you tell one white lie, another one follows and another one follows and another one follows. They never come out as a onesie. So take a look as you move forward in this week. Before we see you again, look in the mirror. Who can you clean up your conversation with this week? Who can you create a new way of communicating with this week? That's my challenge to you. That's my invitation to you. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Sujata to say goodnight.
Good night, and we shall see you all hopefully on next Wednesday.
anything else to share about this before you leave? Scott, anything else you want to say before we put the locks on the room?
Sure. I'll just point out something that I've heard Zig Ziglar say, because I know you're speaking for him as well. Is usually, last I heard, it takes 16 positives to correct one negative. So when somebody speaks negative to somebody, they tend to take it a lot more personally than if somebody speaks positive.
Amen.
And it's interesting that, and that's why he says in a lot of his videos back in the 90s especially, is we want you to listen to this at least 16 times, ideally consecutively, but not necessarily consecutively, so that by the 16th time you're like, wait, I can do what I want with my life? Wait, the gossip, is it about me? Maybe it is about them. And so just the way the brain works, I think it's important to keep in mind as well that we tend to hold on to negative a lot more than we do positive. So just keep in mind that you're not just hurting one person, you could be hurting many. And I actually started to challenge people when they started to spread rumors. And it's interesting now, whenever I walk into those certain rooms, the conversations just kind of stopped. And it was awesome, because I don't have time for that drama, and that was probably the quickest way for me to get around it. So it's I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for having me. I'll pass the mic there.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Really appreciate it. And I just want to make sure before we close the room, I just want to give everybody an opportunity if they want to come up and say anything before we close the room. I'm just whipping around, giving everybody a final invite. We'll pause 1 second here.
I've already made a fool of myself. People, come on up.
All right. And with that, I thank you to everybody. Wei Young says she's cooking and just listening. So thank you. For those of you that take a look and see Wei Young's bio, it's in Chinese. And I just want to say she visits us in the morning for the 24-hour Bible study, Morning Possibility with a Cup of Bible. And if you listen to the last few days and skip to the end, you'll hear her sing. And she is a songbird. It's amazing. So just thank you for being here, Wei Young. It just puts a smile on my face every time I see you. And thank you for being a part of our world. Michelle, I wish you and pray for you to have rapid healing. Lunji and Doreen, thanks for being in the listener lounge. And Nico, thanks for being here. Melvies, it's always good to see you. And to my wonderful bride, Kristen, I love you. I miss you. This is day 5. I'm starting to have withdrawal symptoms from my beautiful bride, and I have 3 more days. Yikes. I can't say I'm enjoying it. Everybody goes, oh, isn't it great to be without your wife at home? Isn't that awesome? I'm like, no. Like, once again, that's like gossip. It's like miscommunication. It's like,
No, it's not gossip. In this case, they're defining who they are. So they probably are the type of characters who enjoy being without their spouses, to be politically correct. So those who say that, they're only reflecting their character, not yours.
yeah. Yep. Well, then do something about it. Clean it up. That's my request for that world. And it's to me, it's one of those cases where either poop or get off the toilet. And with that, I thank you all. And I really enjoy doing this. I find it a great contribution to humanity, to individuals. I see on the replays, I see with people viewing, reviewing where we do it live. And for all those of you that listen, really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday with this format. But I also do a podcast on Monday and Tuesday. I do it a little bit earlier. I do it at 3:00. I do it in the Ziegler room. And we've been talking about DISC and profiling. And this upcoming week, we're going to be jumping into a whole new realm. And if you want to find out what it is, you're going to have to come and check it out, because I'm going to do a little bit of wild stuff. I have discovered I have several buckets, well, folders, file folders of information, sales information that I have kept over the years going, oh, look, I should keep this. I may use this someday. Well, guess what? I'm going to start using it and start sharing it with the world in the rooms, in the podcast on Monday and Tuesday. So that's going to be my new up and coming theme on Monday and Tuesday. And then we'll be back on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with Sujata and I. And come and check us out. And with that, I'm going to take a moment to just do what I call the fun close down. And here we go.
Coaching with Les has doubled my practice.
We've increased our sales by about 33%, blowing all of our goals out of the water.
In my first 6 months, I actually grew my business with his help over 500%. Literally 500%.
Les Hill is the type of person that invests back in you and back into your company. So if you're looking for a business coach with integrity, choose Les Hill.